Today's episode of The Overwhelmed Brain is brought to you by Haven Life Insurance Agency. Make life less hard by helping to financially protect those you love with term life insurance issued by Massachusetts Mutual Insurance Company. Visit welcome.havenlife.com/brain and learn how easy it is to apply today. Are you annoyed by affirmations? Are you tired of that same old, rehashed personal growth advice that all seems to boil down to think positively and all your problems will go away? If affirmations feel like lies and positive thinking feels like denial, then I want you to get ready. The Overwhelmed Brain is here to help you create the life you want now. Welcome to the Overwhelmed Brain. I am Paul Coliani. I am your personal empowerment coach, and this is the show where I read your questions and help you tackle life's toughest challenges. I want to help you increase your emotional intelligence, strengthen your self-worth and self-esteem, and empower you so that you can make decisions that are right for you. Everything I talk about on the show is my personal opinion and is meant for informational and educational purposes only. Always consult a psychological or medical professional before making any changes that could affect your physical or mental health. I think I said that backwards. This first segment is for the people pleasers. The people pleasers in the world, unite. I want the people pleasers of the world to listen to this segment and the non-people pleasers of the world to tune in as well, because you know a people pleaser. Well, you might know. I think you do, though. We run into them all the time. I used to be a people pleaser. I used to be that guy that said, of course I'll work over the weekend. Of course I'll help you carry that hideaway bed couch that weighs 600 pounds down 3 flights of stairs. Of course I can come over now, even though I just got into bed. Of course, of course, of course. I was always the guy that felt like it was the best choice to serve others at my own expense, to my own deficit, to my own energy depletion. I was that guy. I mean, there's more to people pleasing than that, but that was me, not honoring myself, not honoring my boundaries, giving all of who I was, depleting all of my energy for others so that I had none left at the end of the day. I was the guy that lost friendships because I got burnt out on them. I would do everything I could. I would always try to make sure they were happy. I would always make sure that they saw me as the nice guy, because if they saw me as the nice guy, then that meant love and attention. And if they were happy, that was me saying I helped make them happy. There was something I was getting from people pleasing. So this first segment is going to be a little bit on the satirical side and maybe a little sarcastic too. And the reason I say that is because I've created a list for the people pleasers out there to help you become the best people pleaser ever, and to make sure you never fall off the people pleasing wagon. So if you've ever worried that you might start messing up as a people pleaser, don't worry. I've been there. I know all the tricks. I know all the techniques. I'm going to help you stay and be the best people pleaser ever. Like I said, it's satirical. But follow along and you'll see where I'm going with this. So these are the 8 things that you need to do to make sure you never fall off the people-pleasing bandwagon. Number 1, don't respect yourself before you respect others, because you just might start building your self-worth and self-esteem. So I want you to be very careful about that. You don't want to respect yourself before others. You want to respect them first. You just don't want to get into that whole, higher and greater self-worth and self-esteem, because that starts building empowering resources in you. Can't have that. Number 2, don't be compassionate toward yourself to the point where it revitalizes and energizes you. You must spend all your reserve energy on other people so that you aren't wasting precious caring and nurturing on yourself. Self-compassion leads to feelings of acceptance and love in you. And I don't want you to show up in the world as more authentic and more willing to step outside your comfort zone. that just opens up a whole nother can of worms of enjoying life to a whole nother level. So definitely don't show compassion toward yourself, because it will revitalize and energize you. You have too much of that, too much vitality, too much energy, then you might actually start doing what you want to do in life. If you want to stay a people pleaser, definitely don't do that. I can relate to number 2, because I remember when somebody asked me to, this is what I just said earlier, help them move a couch. Now, I had just had back surgery. It was like a year ago, but it was still healing. But, it felt good enough, even though I was told not to do anything really heavy for about 2 to 4 years. But the guy really needed help, so I helped him move his couch. And let's just say that I was in pain the entire next day. But, I helped him move his couch, and that kept my people pleaser status. So I'm happy to say I made it through that. I'm no longer a people pleaser, so I'm really talking to the people pleasers now, just so that you can stay a people pleaser and not fall off the wagon like I did. So do as I say, not as I did. Okay, ready for number 3? Only honor people that never or hardly ever reciprocate. Because you don't want to create a balanced give and take with someone. You might risk forming authentic bonds with people who actually care about you instead of taking advantage of you. Your people-pleasing status will certainly be threatened if you honor only those that give back in kind. So you don't want to do that. If you find someone that is reciprocating and likes to give as much as they get, you're going to have an awful time. It might even be like a competing people-pleasing relationship. And that will take some of your people-pleasing status away. So I don't want you doing that. I need you to be with someone who's not so reciprocal, because it'll help drain you. When you feel drained after pleasing all the time, you get a great night's sleep. And it brings purpose to you to see the results of your giving to someone else that is so ungrateful that they have no desire to do anything while you're around. That's a good feeling. When you're a people pleaser, your purpose is fulfilled when you can please someone to the point that they are not grateful for what you do and don't lift a finger while you're around. That is powerful. Number 5 is never say what you really mean, because it will show others that you respect yourself. This kind of relates to number 1 and 2. If you start being authentic and saying what's really on your mind instead of what you believe others want to hear, you risk getting respect. Now, number 1 is about respecting yourself. But if people start respecting you, you'll actually start having better relationships and getting excited about waking up and doing what you want instead of doing what you believe others want. Now, this is a scary path. It's a giddy liberation where joy and happiness meet, and it's nothing you want to be a part of, believe me. Number 6. Repress anger, sadness, and any other negative emotion. If you express these, you might as well hang up your people-pleasing hat. And also, say goodbye to everyone that doesn't honor you honoring yourself. Seriously, if you start to express these things, people will see that you're a real person. And those who really don't care about you will want you to stay subservient and always wear a smile, even through the worst crises. If you show any sign of negativity, they might run away. They might be afraid that you're no longer going to serve them in a one-sided relationship, and you can't have that. So just keep that in mind. We got 2 more to go. Number 7 is never, ever come up with your own decisions. Always wait for someone else to decide, and then follow their lead and be perfectly happy with someone else making the decision for you, even if inside you completely disagree with them. A good example of this is when you have a conversation about where you want to eat or what movie you want to see. You must keep those conversations really long and almost pointless, where you're both going back and forth saying, I don't care, what do you want to eat? Or what do you want to watch? As long as you're saying things like that, like, I don't care, whatever you want, it's up to you, I'm completely fine with anything you choose. All of those things are vital to keep your people-pleasing status. If anyone were to learn what you really wanted to watch, for example, they might figure out that you're actually human and start respecting your opinions more and wanting to spend more time with you because you're showing the ability to disagree every once in a while. And you wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want that, so make sure that you stay indecisive and only always agree with someone else's choice. Never make your own. We're just about done here. Number 8. The last one is without a doubt something you absolutely cannot mess up. No matter what, when someone asks you what's wrong, make sure to say, nothing is wrong. I'm fine. Every time. You have to do this 100% of the time. You can't ever tell them that something is wrong. Otherwise, if you do say something is wrong, or if you do share some negative emotion inside of you, they might be able to connect with you in a deep, meaningful way. And that might destroy your people-pleasing forever. Seriously, you cannot mess this up. If you start to fall off the path and answer the what's wrong question honestly, if you express how angry you are with someone or how upset someone made you, you're going to resonate with too many other people that also feel these human emotions. We all know that everyone feels better when they believe they are alone in their faults and misery. I mean, don't you feel better when you're alone in your faults and misery? When no one knows about them and you just feel like you're the only person experiencing them? It's that isolation from the world. That's what makes you happiest. So if you show any negative emotion at all, suddenly the people around you might see a deeper part of you and feel like they can finally connect with you because you have problems too. And that type of connection is going to give you away. It's going to break apart that people-pleasing. And we don't want that. All right, you made it. You made it through this list. Yes, it is a little harsh. And I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from a place, and I had to go way back in my mind. Well, not too far back, because I still have some of this in me. Very little pieces and parts of it. I talk about it every now and then with my coaching clients, where I'll just say, I do this sometimes, and I have done this many times. I don't fault people pleasers. I'm not making fun of you. I'm trying to get you to a better space so that you know that people pleasing has the opposite effect of what we feel it should have. When I was a full-blown people pleaser, I really thought that I was creating happy, strong, authentic relationships. But what I was doing was disintegrating each and every one of them by doing exactly what I was just talking about. I was serving others. I was trying to make sure that they were happy. If they showed any ounce of stress or discomfort, I was right there. How can I make you comfortable? What can I do for you? And this really takes power away from people. Imagine if you never had to say what you needed because someone was always there meeting your expectations, or going beyond your expectations, or creating expectations that you didn't have. Some of it sounds good. Well, if someone was there, serving my every need, that would be fantastic. But imagine if someone went overboard all the time and said, "Hey, do you need a glass of water?" And you were like, "No, I'm okay right now." "Are you sure? Are you sure you don't want a glass of water? You look thirsty." No, I'm good. I'll pass for now. I'm going to get you a glass of water anyway." That's what I'm talking about. That's kind of extreme, but some people do this. I was the one who might have done that. I don't remember doing that specific thing, but along those lines. So when you have someone like that that's always trying to show that they are of servitude towards you and they just want to make you happy, it can become a problem in the relationship. Any relationship. I'm talking about any friendship, family, romantic. When you have someone like that, if you are that, you have to be aware that what you're doing is being destructive to the relationship. Believe it or not. And I'm coming from a place where I destroyed almost every relationship. I can say almost every relationship. Not so much with my family. There's a lot of forgiveness in there, but certainly friendships and romantic relationships. I don't have any of those. I mean, my friendships have all broken up. They've broken off. I've let them go because I've been the people pleaser and been wanting to make sure that they were happy all the time, and I got burnt out. So I just kind of let those relationships go. And these were good people. I just felt like I was always trying to do something for them. And no matter how much I did for them, it never felt reciprocal. Not because they weren't reciprocating people, but because I just gave so much that they would never, I mean, no normal person would ever be able to give back as much unless they were a people pleaser too. And people pleasers don't often attract other people pleasers because they already have everything they need and they want to help others. And the people pleaser isn't looking for help. They're looking for someone to serve. And like I said, it becomes destructive. And it's weird to say that. Like, if someone's always trying to please you, how is that destructive? It has the opposite effect because at first, it's nice to be served. After a period of time, however, it's almost like you're with a robot that never has their own opinion and never shows anger, never expresses how they really feel, never honors themselves. And they always love what you love and agree with everything that you want because they change their behavior based on what they believe you want. Just like I used to show up for every partner in my life. If I show up in a way that she wants me to show up, she's going to be happy. And I'm going to find out every single way that she wants me to show up, and I'll become that person. I'll become that chameleon. I'll adapt so that she never sees some person with a unique identity. She sees someone just like her or someone that has no contrast to her. I'll just show up and I'll be everything she needs me to be. Problem is that when we don't show our own identity, they don't want to love someone who just serves them. They want to love someone because they like the diversity. They like the contrast. The brain loves contrast. The brain even loves challenges. Like, hey, let's go buy some furniture. Okay, whatever you say. Well, don't you want to talk about it? I mean, what about the color? Any color is fine with me. Well, help me out here. What color do you like? Whatever you like, I like. We get bored without some sort of contrast in our conversations. We become unhappy because we don't want to be with someone who's always agreeing with us and always saying yes, even when we know they mean no. And always speaking in a way that seems to be dependent on how we speak and how we respond, instead of how they feel or how they think. Most people do not want to be with someone who doesn't seem like an individual with their own values, with their own needs, with their own problems. In any relationship, emotional poverty is created when there is only one unique individual. Let me kind of clear that up. You can have two unique individuals with their own values and own ideas, and that creates an emotional abundance and diversity that can cause connection to thrive. Diversity helps relationships to thrive. It's not all diversity, but some diversity. But you also don't want your relationship to be homogenized when you have one thought process and the other person agreeing to that thought process and serving that thought process. When there's no contrast, there's no brightness. Yes, that's a TV reference. And there's no difference between the two people because it's more homogeneous. When there's no difference, you don't grow. You don't expand. You don't enhance each other. You can't learn from each other because the relationship rides on one person with their values, ideas, and philosophy, while the other person is just along for the ride saying everything is wonderful and I'll do anything for you, and all of your values, ideas, and philosophies is my values, ideas, and philosophies. I've seen people run from relationships like this. They can't stand it. I've seen the partners in my life run from me, not being able to connect with me because they only saw one side of me. Not all sides, only one, and it was always positive, and it was never uniquely me. It was always the adaptive self that turned into whatever I believed they wanted me to be. I destroyed every relationship because of this. And I'm being a little harsh on the people pleasers, not because they're bad people. They're usually very kind and compassionate and supportive and nurturing people. They're some of the most wonderful people in the world. And they are destroying relationships. They are destroying themselves. If you're a people pleaser, if you serve others and it creates an emotional deficit in you, your happiness goes away and you feel drained and you start resenting people and you feel like you're being taken advantage of and being walked over and you're a pushover. And it's all because of how you're showing up. When you bring diversity and contrast into your relationship, people get to know the real you. Non-people pleasers, believe it or not, can see right through people pleasers. Most of them. I hate to break it to you, if you're a people pleaser, when you're people pleasing, you hide nothing. In fact, you reveal so much about yourself. I say that because when you're a people pleaser, people end up talking about you. I hate to tell you, I hate to reveal this. This is sort of like what office gossip and stuff. Like, she never has her own opinion, or he always seems to agree with everything. This is the kind of talk that can happen behind a people pleaser's back. So I just want to put that out there, not to make you feel insecure, not to make you feel worse about yourself, but to give you an opportunity to start shifting inside of you so that you start to learn to honor yourself, to express what you really feel. It might take baby steps, but I highly recommend you take these baby steps if you're in that people-pleasing mode so that you aren't creating these scenarios. I mean, yeah, people shouldn't talk about you behind your back. I'm not saying that, they shouldn't be doing that, gossip and all that. Not healthy necessarily, but at the same time, it's good to know that you're people-pleasing. You're always serving others. You're always saying yes when you mean no. All of these people-pleasing can be seen as someone who doesn't have their own thought process, someone who's not honoring their personal boundaries, someone who doesn't seem like a unique individual with their own ideas, their own opinions. And when you show up as more of this benign, without too much variety to you, without too much diversity to you, you'll never create the strongest bonds with friends and family and romantic partners that you could. There's more out there. So this is just a message to the people pleasers that want to change. If you don't want to change, I'm not asking you to change. I'm not saying anything. If you're a happy people pleaser and you're having a great life because of it, absolutely don't listen to anything I'm saying. If you're a people pleaser, or you don't know you're a people pleaser, and you're just learning about it and what is this people pleaser thing, and you realize that your relationships are failing, or you're always drained, that's a big sign, you're always exhausted, you feel resentment toward others, you really want to say things but you don't, and you always put on a smile when you don't want to smile, that might be an indication that maybe something could change in your life so that you can become a happier, healthier person. I went through it, and I've healed through a lot of it because I started honoring my personal boundaries. I started saying what's on my mind. I took some leaps of faith and just put myself out there and said, this is the real me. You might not like me, but this is the real me. Then I find out who really honors me, honoring myself, and it really changed my life. And that people pleaser, sure, it's still in me, but I now have a choice. I can choose to use it. I can make it appear or not. But my default is my true, authentic self, or as close as I can get. I'm still working on the fully authentic me. I'm sure that's a work in progress until, who knows, the end of time. It's always revealing more and more. So thank you for surviving this segment if you're a people pleaser and maybe I rubbed you a little the wrong way, or I pressed some buttons. Or maybe it was a message that you really needed to hear. And for those who aren't people pleasers, go easy on them. They're trying. They're good people. We'll be right back. Well, I was reading about how Haven Life started. The co-founder, Yaron Ben-Zvi, and his wife were expecting their first child. Having a baby made him realize he needed to prioritize what was most important to him. He wanted to make sure that he helped protect his family's financial future. So he did what all of us would do. He went online to look for a solution. He figured he could just apply for a term life insurance and be done with it. But at that time, this was not the case. Far from it. It surprised and disheartened him to realize that he'd have to go through the traditional application process. That meant phone calls and faxes and waiting weeks to receive a decision on eligibility. You ever feel like some things should be easier than they are? That's what went through Yaron's mind. he decided to do something about it. He wanted to build a better experience for insurance buyers and their loved ones. That's where Haven Life comes in. Haven Life offers term life insurance issued by MassMutual that you can apply for online, anywhere, anytime, and from any device. And it's available nationwide. Not to mention, they also have a chatbot to help you get a quote, and a well-earned reputation as an innovative player in the insurtech industry. Haven Life offers an easy online experience to buy affordable term life insurance. For example, a 35-year-old man in excellent health could get a $500,000 20-year Haven Life term policy issued by MassMutual for around $21 per month. That's less than what I pay for streaming TV movies. Haven Life doesn't make you wait weeks. They'll give you an immediate decision on eligibility in minutes. And if you have any questions at all, they have actual human and friendly customer support. None of this automated stuff. I want you to visit welcome.havenlife.com/brain and find out how Haven Life is changing the way people buy term life insurance issued by MassMutual so that it's actually simple. Apply anytime, anywhere, from any device. Visit welcome.havenlife.com/brain. All right, welcome back. I'm going to give you a slightly different angle on people-pleasing. Slightly different angle. And that's coming from an email I received from someone I'm going to call Sandy. And I'm just going to read pieces of this email and talk about those pieces and how people-pleasing can really lead to a seriously abusive relationship. So let me read this and we'll see where we go. This person I'm going to call Sandy went on a date with a coworker. And on her first date, he said he liked her. And she said, well, I'm feeling things out. I don't know how I feel about you yet. And after their date, the next day, he didn't show up for work. And she didn't hear from him, and she couldn't reach him. So she decided to, I think she went over there, and found that he had been drinking, and he had smashed bottles and glasses. And he said to her, you know, I get very angry, and I need to drink to relieve that anger, or relieve the pain. And she said, okay, after we discussed it, I told him I wouldn't be okay with someone who takes those actions when angry. I also gave him some suggestions on what he could do differently that could relieve that stress and pain. We got closer into a relationship. He didn't drink again after that time. Once we were together, it was fun. We had a lot of fun together. And in that time, I was shown certain characteristics in his personality that I recognized as toxic. For example, he would be racist. I was shocked at some of the stuff I heard out of his mouth. Every time he made a racist comment, I felt like hiding. I expressed to him that comments he made hurt me as it went against my beliefs in treating others and is overall mean to other people. And after becoming defensive, he said he would make more effort in not being racist. However, he would always say that I'm trying to change him by telling him that the racism isn't good, and when I told him about the drinking months ago. To me, I never looked at it as changing him, more so opening his eyes. The racism happened again and again in different occasions. More time went by in our relationship, and we would have disagreements, and he would get very angry. And she said a lot of other things in between. I'm just reading the highlights here. A few days later, we spoke, and I told him how him calling me, and I can't say it, an effing bitch, is very disrespectful to me, hurts me, and goes against my boundaries in the relationship. I told him how it hurts me when he speaks to me in that way. I also tried to ask and understand him as to why he feels the need to offend me when he is angry. He says it relates back to his childhood and that while growing up, he was surrounded by people who would speak like that to one another. I understood what he was telling me, but I also told him that I don't want to be in a relationship where my partner speaks to me the way he did. He agreed, and he said he wouldn't do it again. More time went by, and then another situation came up, and then he told her to shut the F up, and he hung up the phone on her. She was annoyed, and he did it again, so she called him back, and at this point, she was mentally exhausted. She goes on, the next days we managed to speak after we calmed down. He told me he was angry after a long day at work and said those things, but I told him that didn't feel okay with me. I never retaliated back to him because I just don't believe in treating people this way. This repeated discrimination to others pushed me away. After a few days, I was still feeling sensitive about what happened, and I spent those days reviewing our relationship. I love him, but I love myself more, and I know I deserve better than disrespect. I told him I was done with the relationship. He didn't take it well at all. He then flinched his fists and said, "I swear I'm going to punch you in the face." At this point, I knew I had to leave the situation because he had the full potential to hurt me. I left, and on my way home, he kept calling me, and on the third call I picked up, and he was howling to me that I would never find someone like him, and how everyone I'll be with will cheat on me. The next days at work were hell. He would come to me at any moment I was alone, saying things to me like, "Everyone thinks I was in the right. You don't love me because if you did, you would never leave. I would never leave you. How could you do this to me, knowing that I've been what I've been through in my childhood? I'm going to go back to drinking now." Then he would put photos of them in her locker, and then his journal expressing how sorry he is that she ended up with a guy who'd mistreated her, and now he will continue the rest of his life regretting and feeling the wrath of his actions. She said, "It did make me feel emotional, although I felt it was very manipulative as well. He even told me that day that he gave me all those things to remind me what we had so that I could reconsider my decision. I offered to go to therapy with him. His answers ranged from yes to I don't need therapy. I need a family with someone who loves me. I always thought, how could you possibly love and cherish someone when you don't love yourself? He even asked me to give him another chance, and I asked him what he is doing to heal his scars. And he said, I know I won't disrespect you again. For me, that just wasn't enough. His actions rarely matched up to his words. Anyway, it's been a month since the relationship ended. Well, it's probably been a few months now. It's been hard. It's also gotten slightly easier. Seeing him at work every day is killing me and honestly pisses me off, but I focus on my work and I go home. Ever since I ended it, Paul, I've felt a huge sense of guilt. If I think why, it's because I almost feel like it was my position to take care of him. But then I remind myself, what could I do anyway? If he doesn't want to change for himself, then he'll just continue being who he is. But why do I feel this guilt? I also find myself asking my close friends and family if they believe I made the right decision. I keep looking for confirmation. But why? I know deep down my gut was telling me it felt wrong. I'd like you to tell me what you think, Paul. I'm in my 20s. I do feel like I have my life ahead of me, but I surely felt so attached to him. I still love him, and I continue to love and respect him as a person. I also understand why he is the way he is, even the disrespect. Have I been in a toxic and manipulative relationship? Was it emotionally abusive? This has been a very long message, but I hope you get the gist of it. Looking forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you. All right, Sandy, thank you so much for sharing all that. And I'm going to go right to your final questions. Were you in a toxic and manipulative relationship? I would say 99.9% yes. Let me change my answer. 100% yes. The reason I say that is because all of these signs and symptoms that you articulated in your email are part of the emotional abuse cycle. One of the formulas for an emotionally abusive relationship is you have someone, often a guy, but women do it too, that is the victim of some circumstance in his childhood. Trauma, abuse, and it's a very sad story, and it's a very real story and a heartfelt story. And when that person meets someone who is caring, kind, maybe a little people-pleasing, I'm not really calling you a people pleaser, but you do have some of the signs of people pleasing. This is why I'm reading this email on this episode. But what happens is someone who's caring and kind and nurturing and supportive will want to take care of someone who's been victimized and will be really forgiving with their bad behavior, because it's almost, just that in itself is almost a little too dysfunctional. Because what you're doing is creating a parent-child relationship. If you go in as the parent wanting to take care of someone because you know they have a hard life and you're so forgiving of their bad behavior, because just like if they were your kid, if they did bad behavior, you're going to love them unconditionally no matter what. When you get into a relationship like that and you put that type of energy into it, you become an abused person. Your brain becomes the abused brain, because your toleration levels are so high for the abuse, because what you're doing is seeing that their traumatic past outweighs their bad behavior toward you. In fact, their dangerous behavior sometimes toward you. When their traumatic past outweighs their present behavior, you create a manipulative, emotionally abusive relationship. Well, you don't create it, but you just facilitate it. you are enabling this person to continue to do bad behavior to you. And because you are so supportive and caring and loving this person, almost like a child, like a mom loves a child, you grow an attachment. You grow such a bond to the person who's abusing you, because this is definitely emotional abuse, that when they say what you're doing wrong, which is not wrong, what you're doing is trying to honor yourself and protect yourself and also care for them. But when they say what you're doing wrong, you take it personally as if it were true and put yourself down, because they're good at that. They're good at helping you feel bad about yourself. When that happens, the guilt starts. The guilt is part of the emotional abuse cycle. And when you feel guilty, they lock you in. You're locked into the relationship. And you, however, let me give you some credit here, a lot of credit, you got out of the relationship. You saw the toxic behavior as it happened. You were very aware of it. You were very conscientious of it. Not a lot of people catch it that early in the game and say to themselves, oh, I don't want this in my life. I don't want this in a relationship. This is not good behavior. I respect myself more than this. I can't be around someone who does this. And he said all the, quote, right things. Okay, I won't do it anymore. This is a huge red flag, by the way. I mean, yes, it would be great if that were the case, if he really didn't do it anymore. But this is a huge red flag. If you ever see really toxic behavior and the person says, oh, okay, I won't do it anymore, that is a red flag that says, I won't do it anymore in front of you. It's still in me. It's still a part of me, and I don't plan on working on it. I'm only going to hide it from you. So now you have an even more covert toxicity underneath any type of bonding and love that you have for each other. You have to be really careful when someone says, oh, I won't do it anymore, or I will change for you. You have to be really careful about that, because that is just temporary behavior that will come out in other destructive ways. And in your letter, you said later on, well, he's just going to go back to drinking. That's what he said. I'm going to go back to drinking because you've hurt me. I'm going to blame everything on you. I would never cheat on you. I would never leave you. I'm such a catch that you should keep me. I'm the one who's the victim here, not you. If you honor yourself, that's disrespectful to me. I mean, think about some of the logic here. It doesn't make any sense, because when someone loves you, they want you to be happy. They want you to honor yourself. They will see that they're hurting you and back off and think, wow, I'm hurting you? I better go take care of myself. I better go get some healing. Instead of saying something like, I'm hurting you? Oh, okay, I won't do that behavior anymore. I'm sorry about that. Even though that's what you want to hear, it's not enough, because the toxicity is still in the underlayer. It's still in the, it's probably not the right word. It's part of the foundation. It's part of that mix that's going to pop up in other ways. So again, kudos to you for getting out of this relationship. And also regarding your guilt, this is how they keep relationships in their life, by making other people feel guilty for honoring themselves, for taking themselves away from them. If they can make you feel guilty, then you'll want to stay connected to them to alleviate the guilt, because they're going to feed you breadcrumbs of love and connection. And then the other breadcrumbs are the toxic elements that are a part of it. It's all that traumatic bonding I've talked about in other episodes, where it's a mix of love and abuse. And that's why I got the website, loveandabuse.com, the Mean Workbook. Everything you're talking about, I talk about in the Mean Workbook. If you haven't gotten that, you might want to consider it, loveandabuse.com. But even if you don't get that, I want you to understand that the very first signs that you saw, the very first thing that you saw where he drinks to relieve his pain, gives you the biggest red flag, because this is how someone deals with their emotions. I mean, this is what you need to look at. How does someone deal with adversity? How does someone deal with contrast? How does someone deal with conflict and confrontation and disagreement? How does someone deal with that? Because if they only honor their own needs and their own wants, and they don't honor your ideas, your respect and honoring of yourself, that's when you need to back away. So the very first sign that came up is when you should have written to me. Not that I want you to listen to everything I say. I just want you to be aware that this is a big red flag, if not one of the biggest red flags, because you're seeing what they do with their emotions. They're not addressing them. Instead of talking to somebody, instead of expressing them, they're repressing them. When you repress emotions, when you repress all that negativity, and you're that angry, and you take work off, and you are smashing things in your house, it shows you the type of personality you're dealing with. And I don't mean to put anyone down who's ever done this. I'm just saying that if this is their MO, if this is how they normally handle anger, then they probably need to talk to someone about it. And being in a relationship with someone like that puts you in that mix. And that can be very toxic in a relationship. Now, I also want to address a values thing. What are your values? When you write down everything that you want in a relationship, everything that you value in a relationship or a partner, what does he match? Does he match any of them? Maybe one of them is that he makes me laugh. Does that come before treating me with respect, treating others with respect? I want you to be very clear on what you value, and if you find that this relationship is in alignment with those values. The only reason I say that is because he has to do the same thing. What are his values in a relationship? That would be an interesting question for him. Not that I want you to get back and connect with him again, but it would be interesting to find out what he values in a relationship. If he values someone who submits to him and accepts his racism, accepts his, if he's an alcoholic, alcoholism, accepts his whatever, and those aren't your values, then you already have a misalignment here. You already have a disagreement that it's just not going to work out. I mean, yes, you can have differing values, but when they're so diverse, it's probably not going to work out. Now, let me talk about where the people-pleasing comes in, because you said that you felt like it was your position to take care of him, but then you remind yourself, what if he doesn't want to change? So before you even get to that part of him wanting to change or not, when you are with someone like this that has this kind of up and down behavior, I mean, he might have something else going on. It might be bipolar, it might be something. And that's why it's probably very important for him to talk to someone about this. But when you're with someone like that, you can't expect too much rational behavior, because he's already shown irrational behavior on day one, on the first date. So to expect anything less irrational is now on you. And this is where you start justifying your false perceptions. You start justifying that maybe he will change, and especially if you can help him see the light, help him open his eyes. I think that's a big mistake. I think it's a huge mistake. The people pleaser in you wants to help him. The people pleaser in you, and this may be more of a rescuer, fixer type person, but these characteristics go back and forth between people pleaser, rescuer, fixer. But what it does is it puts you in the helper position to help the underdog, to help the victim. You can help real victims. If someone is suffering today because they are, under some sort of trauma or abuse, you can absolutely help that person. When they suffered 20 years ago, you can still help that person, but how are they treating you presently? The idea is to separate the past from the present. The present is what you see and what you experience. And the rescuer will just disregard bad behavior toward themselves a lot and try to help through love and support. And if they just show the other person the error of their ways and how they can be a better person, that the other person will change and life will be wonderful. And that rarely, if ever, works. I mean, it does work sometimes when you have someone who really wants to change. I mean, this is where you can tell if someone's going to change or not. If they do something, that seems very irrational, very crazy, very toxic, and then they say, oh my God, I did that. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that. There must be something going on in me. I need to go fix myself. I need to go heal. I need to go talk to someone. When they can do this and they separate themselves from you, there's a great chance that you will see healing out of them. because there's self-awareness to the point that they realize that they're screwing up, that's not the right word, but that they are very toxic, that their behavior is very toxic. When someone can say, wow, I can't believe I did that. I'm so sorry. I need to work on myself. Stay away from me until I work on myself. I got to figure this out. They don't have to say those words, but that kind of energy, when they say something like that, that tells you that they actually really do want to change. But when they say, oh, I did that, you don't like that? Okay, I should change. Or I will change. Or anything that says, yes, I'm going to change, but it doesn't have the energy of, whoa, what did I just do? That's awful. I need to work on that in me. If it doesn't have that kind of energy, then that'll probably be the differentiator to look for. Now, he does say at one point, I'm so sorry, I regret this, I'm so sorry, but you got to look at all the other stuff he's done and how he just said, okay, I won't be racist anymore. I mean, all these little things add up. But even individually, if you look at them individually, they are clear signs of what his values are and what he is comfortable being and how he is comfortable with his behavior, and that all he's doing is placating you. Talk about people pleasing there. He's placating you by adapting to what you want him to do. So there's people pleasing on his side too. Again, these are just small aspects and components of people pleasing and other things, but it's the people pleasing episode, so I got to kind of tie it in. So where I want you to go with this, Sandy, is know that guilt is part of their process to make you feel bad for their plight. And it also helps them to lock you in so that you don't leave, because what they do is use your own emotions and connection and love and nurturing against you. They will take your emotions and your unconditional love and help you use it against you. Because that would be like me saying, you didn't listen to my episode last week? How could you do that? How could you not listen to my episode last week? I thought you were a person that really wanted to grow inside. I thought you were someone who really wanted to work on herself. And by you not listening, it tells me that you really don't care about me. You really don't care about yourself. You really don't care about learning and healing and growing at all. And imagine if I said that. It's terrible. That would be me trying to paint a picture in your mind that you're the bad person. You're not a bad person. You can skip every episode that you want. You don't even have to listen ever again. That's freedom. That's me saying, I would love for you to continue listening to this show, but you're not required to. If anything turns you off, if anything rubs you the wrong way, if my voice annoys you, then tune out. Stay away from me. I'm obviously not the best choice for you. When you do that, you give someone freedom. Oh my God, I am so toxic. You need to stay away from me. I'm toxic. This is self-awareness. This is conscientiousness. This is someone who really wants to heal. What, I did that? I'm so sorry. I better work on myself. When you don't get that and you get instead, what are you doing to me? Look at you. I would never leave you. You're leaving me. Oh, you're the problem. You said one thing in your email that kind of stuck out, and that was, here it is. This repeated disrespect and repeated discrimination to others pushed me away. After a few days, I was still feeling sensitive about what happened, and I spent those days reviewing our relationship. I love him, but I love myself more to know that I deserve better than disrespect. So at this point, when you love yourself more and you know what you want for yourself, my question would be, why do you continue to expose yourself to someone who has these characteristics? And if it's all because you want to nurture, you want to fix, there's a better man underneath and you just want to bring that better man out, you're going to be sorely disappointed, very hurt, and probably very abused with the wrong person. Because the better person has to come out in a way that's self-empowered. In other words, they have to want to heal. They have to want to be in a better space. And it's so difficult for their romantic partner to help them get into that better space by having them coach or mother or be their therapist. It's possible, but it's usually a little dangerous because you are involved You are part of the formula that makes the dysfunctional cycle, the emotional abuse cycle. So it would require you stepping out of the romantic aspect and into a non-biased, non-judgmental observer aspect and being able to help him that way, if he even wanted it. I mean, most of the time, we don't want our partner to be our therapist or our coach. I try not to be any type of coach to my girlfriend unless she opens that door and says, let's talk about this. I want your guidance, or, she doesn't use those words, but we have an understanding that I don't just jump into coach mode and try to fix her. If she wants to talk about something, she'll come to me and she'll ask me. Of course, we don't have an emotionally abusive relationship, so it's a lot different. But when you have an emotionally abusive relationship, the person who is the one doing the bad behavior has to want to change. And if you are one of those fixer, people helper, rescuer type people, and you're trying to pull out the better person, the healed person out of them, you're going to be more disappointed in life than not. Because that doesn't happen unless somebody's already on that path. And even if you were successful and pulled some, goodness or some different behavior out of him, will it last? I mean, the idea that he says, okay, I'll stop being racist. That doesn't last. That doesn't sound very self-empowered. That's not somebody who realizes really at a deep level that, oh crap, it's a really bad idea to be racist. I never heard myself. I just said things off the cuff and I was being racist and I didn't even know it. Wow, I got to look at that in myself. I had no idea I was like that. That's so different than someone who says, oh, of course I'll stop being racist. Those two approaches are so different. One has the possibility of a lasting change. When they say, wow, I didn't realize I was doing that. I got to look at that. That has a possibility for a lasting change, where the other one doesn't. Oh yeah, I'll stop being racist when you're looking. So let me just say this, Sandy, in closing. Thank you again for writing all this. I'm so glad you're out of this relationship. With the guilt thing, I need you to transform that guilt into putting more energy into you, more self-compassion, more self-love, so that when you see a relationship starting in your life, all the energy that you put into someone else trying to heal them, trying to fix them, trying to make them see the error of their ways is what is helping create the guilt in you, believe it or not. So what do? You have to back off putting all that energy out to someone else and put it into yourself. That way, if you ever feel guilt for not being able to help the other person or thinking that maybe you're mistreating someone because they had it rough, remember that you come first. You have to look at yourself and understand that what needs healing is in you. Because if you stay with someone who puts you through all these different aspects of toxic behavior and you still don't walk out, you are aware of everything, but you still don't walk out, you have to ask yourself, am I trying to be motherly? Am I trying to fix this person? Am I trying to make this person a better person when they should be working on that themselves? Because if you're pouring that energy into someone else, trying to help them become a better person, and they're not already on that path, the way I spoke of it earlier, then you're likely to develop those feelings of guilt because you're not staying fully aware of all these red flags. Instead of reacting to the red flags, you are adapting to the red flags. Oh, he does this, so let me do this. Let me show him his ways and maybe he'll change. Whereas someone who might have a lot more self-esteem, a lot more self-worth, a lot more self-respect, which I know you do, but if you had that really strong inside you, a really strong sense of values and boundaries, you're going to see this behavior and say to yourself, I want nothing to do with this guy. I want nothing to do with this. He's very toxic. The first red flag is enough for me. I'm walking away. Hey, when you get your drinking problem fixed, give me a call, but this is ridiculous. I don't want to deal with this. The second red flag, let's just say I gave him a second chance. The second red flag. What? Now he's appearing this way? Whoa, this is too many red flags for me. A good relationship doesn't show all these red flags. Not this big. There might be tiny orange, amber flags, but not those big red flags that make you realize, whoa, this is a little too much for me to handle. But that involves being very clear in what you value in a relationship and also being very clear that you do not want to show up as the mother. You do not want to show up as the one who can help someone get out of the quagmire. That does happen. It can happen in healthy relationships. Relationships can have their ups and downs. Each person can go through a depression or a sadness or a loss, and then the other person's there to help them through it and help them get out of it. But when you meet someone and someone's already in this space, it's a real challenge. It usually creates a very dysfunctional relationship, and I don't think I've ever seen a relationship shift to where both people are mostly functional, mostly healthy, mostly happy in themselves to bring the best version of themselves into the relationship. I hardly ever see that when there's such a divergent clash in who you are when you first meet. So as time goes by, you're going to feel more and more empowered going through this, getting through the guilt so that you don't have to carry that around anymore. Just know that you are a loving, kind, generous person, but you can't be too generous with people that are toxic because they will suck you into that, what I call vortex of misery. You don't want to be sucked down into that because once you are, you'll develop those bonds. And once those bonds start, the sensitive, caring, nurturing person will feel guilty for now pulling back. The sensitive, caring, generous person can often feel guilty for getting into a relationship, for loving, and then they feel like they're abandoning the person. And you do that to yourself for sure. You get sucked in and fall in love, and then you start being that motherly provider and nurturer, and then when you leave, it feels like you're abandoning. And that's where the guilt comes from. And you just have to know that the abandoning is not really an abandoning at all. It's an awakening. I look at it as an awakening for the other person and for you. It's also an opportunity for the other person to think about his behavior in life and think, wow, I keep screwing up relationships. I must need to work on something. That opportunity doesn't come if you stay in a relationship like that. The awakening is the opportunity, and it's also one of the healthiest things you can do for the person. Because if you stay in a relationship with that person, again, I've never seen it end up any other way except more dysfunctional and more emotionally abusive. And what you're doing is really causing the emotional abuse to continue and enabling their bad behavior to continue. The longer you stay in a relationship, the more enabling of that bad behavior and the possibility that they will never look at that bad behavior as something they need to work on in themselves. So transform all that guilt into an energy of tough love, because this is what it's all about. You love that person enough to give them the opportunity to work on themselves. I look at that as tough love. I hope this helps. Thank you so much, Sandy, and thanks for listening to another episode. We'll be right back. I'll say my thank yous and some goodbyes and end the show after this. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Overwhelmed Brain. I want to thank Haven Life Insurance Agency. Check them out. They got some great rates. Go to welcome.havenlife.com/brain and plan ahead. If you haven't done this yet, it's a good idea to plan ahead. And I want to thank iTunes reviewer ALS10Y. They wrote, "Good podcast. I would prefer if it wasn't frequently related back to you all the time. For example, I do this, she does that. It can sound like the audience is hearing your learned life lessons out loud. This amount of I can come across as hedging, doubtful, or defensive about what your critical points are. Other than that, great points made. Enjoy." Okay, I love that. The Overwhelmed Brain audience is so brilliant. I don't think I've ever used the word hedging in my life. So thank you, ALS10Y. They gave me 4 stars. I honor and value your opinion, and I know exactly what you mean. I talk about myself in a way that lets you know that not only am I not done yet, but I made it through some tough times, and you can too. So who knows, maybe you're right, or maybe not. Either way, I'm still grateful you took the time to write this out. Thank you so much. And I want to thank the patron members. If you've learned something that maybe changed your life, consider supporting the show. Go to patron.theoverwhelmedbrain.com. And thank you, existing patron members. I appreciate you so much. Michelle, Angela, Heather, Jennifer, Julia, Rachel, a lot of other people that I'll probably thank on another day. All of you are amazing. thank you for supporting the show. It goes a long way, and I hope you're getting a lot from the Patreon program. Visit patron.theoverwhelmedbrain.com if you not only want to support the show, but you also get private episodes, free workbooks, and everything that's not on my website. You're going to find a bunch of cool stuff there. And I talked about the Mean Workbook a little bit. Go to loveandabuse.com. This last segment talked about an abusive relationship. Sandy, if you're still listening, a lot of the things that you said, especially, as soon as you wrote, I would never cheat on you. You're going to be cheated on by other people. And I would never leave you. Whenever somebody starts talking like that, they're trying to activate your guilt. They're trying to make you feel bad. Because if you take those words and you believe them, no one's going to love you like I love you. Then it creates self-doubt in you. If there's any doubt, then that's how they start the control cycle. They can control you by causing you to doubt yourself. And in multi-year relationships under this type of emotional abuse, I've found always that the victim of the abuse questions their own decisions. Where before they get into a relationship, they never questioned their own decisions, or at least they did rarely, or at least they trusted themselves more. But in these relationships, they don't trust themselves anymore. This is just part of the pattern, and you have to realize that when you stop trusting your own decisions, it's because you are believing the manipulator over yourself. And in the Mean Workbook, it tells you how to recognize that and what to do to start fighting that, to start trusting yourself again and getting into a more empowered space so that you're not so sucked into their game. I want to make sure you're not in that game. So if you want to find out at what level of emotional abuse or manipulation that you're in, go to loveandabuse.com and get the Mean Workbook today. And finally, I'd like to thank Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com for some of the music transitions in The Overwhelmed Brain. When I was a big-time people pleaser back in the day, I used to be like that on the job where I remember working for this company, what was it, 2008, 2009? It wasn't too long ago. Well, I guess it was now, but 9 or 10 years. Where I said yes to everything. I kissed butt. I made sure that everyone loved me. I never showed anger. I never showed any resistance to anything. I agreed with everything because I wanted that raise. I wanted that promotion. And I remember a year after I was hired, I finally got my evaluation, and they did. They gave me this promotion and they gave me this raise, and it was like, 50 cents. And I remember I worked so many weekends. I worked and did so much for them that it just felt like a slap in the face. Now, saying this, I realize 50 cents to some people is a lot. I'm not trying to put that down. But here I was thinking that I was going to get like a $3 or $4 or $5 raise per hour. I just thought that this is what you do to when you put yourself out there and make yourself valuable. It was all part of people pleasing. Because I didn't want to cause any trouble. I didn't want to make any waves. I just wanted to show them that I was always in a good mood and willing to do anything they wanted me to do. And when I got that tiny little promotion and tiny little raise, it was one of the first times that I felt like this people-pleasing crap isn't working. And it really opened my eyes because I spent an entire year pouring my energy into making sure that I was that nice guy. I was the one that they absolutely wanted to have. And they did appreciate me. They did thank me. But all for what? I finally became aware of what people-pleasing was getting me. I spent an entire year staying after work, doing a lot of overtime, saying yes to working when I didn't want to work, and doing projects I didn't want to do. Spent so much time when I could have had quality time with my wife at the time, or quality time doing my own projects and doing my own recreation. Spent so much time for the result that I got that really didn't do anything at all for me, for my life. Didn't change anything. It made me look back the whole year and realize that I just wasted a year. Again, I'm not putting it down. It was still a step in the right direction. It was a good forward momentum, but it was just an eye-opener for the people pleaser in me to think, wow, I said yes to everything, and it really didn't matter because this was my result. And so I remember sitting across the table and they said, 50 cents. Wow. I think I said that. And then after that, I said, I'm not too happy with that. And their eyes got a little wide. There was two people. And they said, well, what were you looking for? And I said, well, on this piece of paper, it looks like I'm going to get, $3 or $4 more an hour. And they said, you misread that. Okay, I guess then that's that. And they said, well, we can, work with you. Let's talk about it. They were very fair. They were very kind, and they could only do what they could do. They had a system they had to follow. But in me, things were shifting. And for me to speak up and say, wow, that's not very satisfying, especially in the face of a gift like that. I mean, not really a gift, but it was a kind gesture, was a surprise to me even when I spoke up. Like, here I am just telling them I'm not happy with a raise and a promotion. And again, to be fair, they said, look, let's work together. Maybe we can work something out. But in about 3 days, I decided that after a year of working my butt off for this company, and that's how they reward me, I decided that I wasn't going to work there anymore. And I quit. I mean, it took me about a month. I gave them notice, and I quit. And they were surprised because everything was working out fine for them. But for me, I just had this realization. I wanted to align with my integrity and really get out of people-pleasing mode. And I think that was one of the first steps I took, was deciding that I wasn't going to kiss butt and do all these things I didn't want to do just to get that raise and promotion. I would still be a hard worker, but I definitely wouldn't just acquiesce and say yes to everything and submit to everyone's desires and everyone's needs. I was just going to show up as a very hard worker, as I always am, but not go so overboard that it started to become a deficit to me. Because that's what happened. I wasted so much time and energy. I remember my wife saying, how come you're never home on time? How come you never come home? And that really hit me after that year and made me realize that I just spent so much time people-pleasing and trying to look impressive and trying to make sure people liked me, that I was missing out on life. And I did. That was one of the major pivots in my life, was stopping that behavior. And that did change my life. That gave me more freedom to be myself. That gave me more ability to ask for what I want. Hey, I'm not getting paid enough. I would like this much. That gave me more freedom to go to my boss and say I don't have enough resources. I just stopped being so damn unconditionally nice. I mean, that doesn't sound right. I was still a nice guy. I just had to step out of that people pleaser mode and be more kind to myself. Be more fair to myself. I was overly fair with everyone else, but never fair to myself. So I started the balancing between my time and everyone else's time. And that meant saying no to some people. And that meant saying, that doesn't sound good to me. I don't want to do that. Which was scary because that could mean somebody fires me. But as I've gone through the years, as I've gone through different jobs, I've learned that being my authentic self and saying what I really want almost always got me what I really wanted. It was a strange thing because I thought people-pleasing was supposed to get me what I wanted. But it didn't. And when I changed that behavior and started speaking up for myself and honoring myself, I started getting more admiration and more respect. People respect that. They respect the real you. I want you to be the real you as much as you can. With some people, it's hard to be the real you because they're toxic or they're dangerous. But the more you that comes out, the more you can be congruent in yourself, where your intentions and your thoughts match what you say and match what you do, then you become happier. I mean, that's pretty much my formula for happiness, is that what I think comes out of my mouth. Not always. I don't call people a jerk all the time. But if I think, no, I really don't want to do that, and I don't say that, and instead I say, well, okay, I guess I'll do that, suddenly I feel crappy. I feel bad. I push it down. I hold on to resentment. But if I think, no, I don't want to do that, and I speak that, and I tell that person, no, I don't really want to do that, I let it go. It becomes free. It might open up some conversation. Well, you don't want to do that? Well, why don't you want to do that? Yeah, that doesn't feel right to me, or I don't have time for that. These are real thoughts that we have. Like, I don't want to do that, or I would like to do that. And you say yes instead. Whatever it is. The idea is to come out with your authentic answer and see what happens. Experiment. Again, only with safer people. At least until you get used to it. Then, when you're around the more volatile people, you feel confident in yourself and you can carry yourself differently and you can stand up for yourself. And then if it becomes volatile, you can walk away or you can do something else. But it does take some steps to get there. But I've learned to just take the steps and take the risks and get the rewards by learning as fast as possible that I can do this. You can do this. I know you can. And if you don't think you can, just keep your mind open so you can step into your power. This will help you be firm in your decisions and actions so that you can create the life you want. Always take steps to grow and evolve. You are powerful beyond measure. And above all, and this is something I absolutely know to be true about you, you are amazing.